In this week's web video fishing forecast for New England, we have updates on the final Atlantic salmon stockings in Connecticut, success on the many trout streams across New England, our first ice reports in southern New England on the season, an update on the cod fishing out off of Block Island, and much, much more. Let's check it out.
The fishing news is sponsored by these fine partners.
All right, before I get into the full video report, once again, want to remind you to like this video, comment down below if anything that I say catches your interest, or if you want to know more information about anything, and be sure to subscribe to the Fisherman Magazine's YouTube channel and tap the bell to get immediate notification when we post new content. And of course, this is all brought to you by the Fisherman Magazine, so I want you to head on over to fisherman.com and subscribe to the print magazine. We are running a special through the final day of December, so you got, just over a week to take advantage of 1/3 off the cover price. So head on over there right now, hit it up, then come on back and finish continuing with the report video. All right, I'm going to jump right into things now. Keep it kind of short and sweet, as best I can anyway. First up, last week, if you recall, I made mention the state of Connecticut was likely going to make its final stocking of the season with its Atlantic salmon, and as it turns out, this was correct. Perhaps I should have played the lottery last week as well, as I got that one right, but nonetheless, on Friday, the Setauket River was stocked with its final group of fish. It was 60 large. This is 3+ year old fish, bringing the season total stocked into the Setauket to 432 fish. And then following up on Monday, the Naugatuck River received its final stock in the season with another 80 of those big 3+ year old fish, bringing the season total in the Nagy to 452 fish. Now be sure, if you plan to target these salmon over the next couple of weeks, that you have not only a valid Connecticut fishing license, but you also add on the trout stamp. And of course, gear, you can only use a single free swinging fly or artificial, one single hook on there. No additional weight can be added to your line, meaning, you know, what I do with spinnerbaits for freshwater is trim 2 of the 3 trebles off. If you're using something like a jointed Rapala, you got to take all the treble hooks off, and the final, you can replace one with a single inline, or just clip 2 of those bends off and you're good to go. On the flies, of course, just a single fly, no extra weight added, just is what it is from there. And of course, the daily bag limit, which the season is now open for harvest, is 1 fish per angler per day. And of course, if you are able to sneak out and do some salmon fishing, I want to know about it. If you find some success, so shoot me photos, reports, what have you, to Lapinski at thefisherman.com. I'd love to include them in the reports, and I noted that last week. And my buddy Jimmy Millardo followed suit. He was out on the Setauket River last week prior to the opening of the harvest season on the 16th. So this fish was released. It was a 29.5-inch Atlantic. Congrats on that fish, Jimmy. I fished with Jim for years down in Rhode Island in the surf. We've been talking a bit here and there about the Setauket and the Salmon River, so cool to see that you got one of them. And you know, this sparked me to try to get out there this week. So on Monday afternoon, I headed out for a little while once I was done with work, and you know, hey, I figured, why not make it as difficult as possible? So of course I brought the fly rod along. I was joined by my buddy Chris Wall. Unfortunately, Chris's trip was cut a little bit short as we were trudging through the woods at one point. He gashed his waders and had a couple inches of ice cold water fill in, which is horrible when you're fishing in low 30-degree water. But nonetheless, we had a good time up until he got froze out. We saw some fish here and there in a couple of the pools. Didn't have a ton of success. I was able to hook and leap 1 fish. For me, hey, it was a good sized fish. It was pretty exciting. Ended up tossing the hook, unfortunately, but it gave me some confidence to continue out there. I'm sure I'm going to get back out on the water again. It was pretty cool nonetheless. You know, but there's more than just the salmon fishing right now for freshwater anglers to target, as it's a great time for other cold water species like trout. I got this picture from the guys over at Black Hall Outfitters in Westbrook, Connecticut. Said Cole Riccardi was fishing Crystal Lake up in Ellington when he landed this big brook trout. That's a fine brookie right there. They also said they've been hearing steady action on rainbows and browns and even a few brookies here and there in the Farmington River as well as the Salmon River in Connecticut. They noted, of course, the fish are transitioning to their deeper winter holes, so it's a good time to either go deep with some really tiny nymphs. I've been hearing midges have been working quite well, as of course, it's always worth a shot to throw streamers. You're probably not going to get the numbers of fish on those streamers, but when you do, it's probably more likely it's going to be a big fish. That's what I'm going to be throwing my next trip up to the Farmington for sure. All right, moving along. We got our first ice fishing reports of the season, which is kind of surprising to me. I mean, I guess we do have some frozen marsh water here behind me. We've got plenty of snow on the ground, but I got to say, I'm not quite thinking ice fishing yet, but that will be coming soon enough. But nonetheless, my buddy and Fisherman contributor Nick Canaris, he wrote that awesome article back in December for us on getting into ice fishing. Well, he has already found some hard water. He sent me an email. Went up to the northern part of Connecticut this week and found between 5 and 7 inches of ice. Now, he said that wasn't solid 5 to 7. It was primarily 2 to 3 nice black ice, but on top of that was 3 to 4 inches of weaker, snowy, white ice, so very mixed conditions. He said he jigged up a variety of fish from perch to crappie and even a brown bullhead for his effort. Overall, a good first trip out on the ice, but he wanted me to make note. Some serious caution needs to be taken, especially at this early part of the season. And he's got a pretty good example here. He's making his way across the lake, spudding as he goes. That's taking that big spike and checking the ice to see what he's got. He said he was in, about 6 inches of ice when he noticed some oddly colored ice in front of him, hit, and the spud went right through. He had about an inch of ice, went from 6 to 1 in a very short time. He obviously stopped proceeding, inched backwards, stayed away from that area, came out fine, but it's just a really good reminder, like I said, especially this time of the year, to be super, super careful. Take all your precautionary measures. You want to have a spud to check as you go. Have a change of clothes, worst case scenario, in case you do fall through. Have your ice spikes on your wrists, a throw rope, all sorts of stuff. We got a whole article at thefisherman.com. You can check it out on the safety items, of course. Great time of the year for that. I'm going to be holding off a little bit longer myself till I hit the ice, but there are some options out there. I also heard from James Jukes, speaking of ice fishing. He checked in as he and his buddy Clayton took about a 3-hour ride north. Now, James lives North Shore up past Boston, so it's a pretty good ride north. They found some fishable ice. They got a solid 4 inches, he reports. He didn't say exactly where he went. Don't want to blow up his spot on him, but they got out there, found some good ice, set up some tip-ups, and Clayton had some pretty good action on brook trout. Seems to be a little theme right now. The brookies like this cold weather. And James got a whole bunch of yellow perch for his efforts as well. So a couple of local guys putting a little effort in, making a drive, and finding some hard water success.
Back on November 3rd, Election Day, I received a phone call from the folks at Gray Fish Tag Research to let us know that the mini PSAT device from the striped bass called Independence had started to upload data to the Argos satellite. And where this tag was uploading was right along the Delaware Bayshore on the Jersey side, near the town of Fortescue. Now, Independence was that 46-inch striper that was caught on July 3rd, hence the name Independence, aboard Savio Mizzi's fish hooker. That was with Mike Caruso and Fred Galafaro. Well, 4 months to the day, that tag began to upload. We set out on an extensive, comprehensive effort to try to find that tag someplace along the Delaware Bayshore, because keep in mind that tag, it has a battery, and once it becomes disengaged from the fish, floats to the surface and starts feeding the Argos satellite, that battery kicks in and functions for 10 days. So we had a bunch of treasure hunters with metal detectors, skiffs, john boats, walking the shores of Egg Island Wildlife Management Area along the Delaware looking for that tag. But after 10 days, we had not heard from the tag again. So all the data that was uploaded to the Argos satellite, but we couldn't find the tag. Well, lo and behold, after the nor'easter last week, obviously that tag became dislodged from the banks of the New Jersey side of the Delaware and came up somewhere along the Delaware beaches. That's where Drew Johnson, his son Luke, and Dave Vitella were taking a walk with their dogs along Cape Henlopen, and lo and behold, they found that message in a bottle. Phenomenal. I spoke to Drew this week, and he told us all about it. He said he and Dave walk their dogs along the beaches there all the time. They're surfers, they're fishermen, they're local business owners down there in Lewis. but really exciting stuff. We got to thank Lucky Luke is what they call him, because he's always stumbling into something. These guys actually do some treasure hunting along the Delmarva Peninsula, usually looking for flotsam, jetsam along the beaches, colored glass. But this one, the message in a bottle, is phenomenal, especially if you read the tail end feature from the January edition of the Fisherman magazine out this week. I had kind of joked around saying, boy, I would love it if a father and son team found this mini PSAT device. Well, they did. So that mini PSAT device is en route to Gray Fish Tag Research, where they're going to open it up, find out exactly what Independence did for those 4 months between Montauk and the Delaware Bay. We'll have the full details on that tracking in the February edition of the Fisherman magazine. Be on the lookout for that, but of course pick up the January edition that's out now.
Moving on over to the saltwater side of things, the snow that we've got on the ground and the cold snap seems to put a little bit of a damper on the holdover striped bass action. I went out a couple of times myself this week where I had fish literally right up until and including the snowstorm, but then since then the fish have turned off for me. A couple of guys that I spoke to hitting a few of the other bigger tidal rivers in the area, same thing, finding some success but not quite what we had before, but I'm sure it's going to bounce back. And speaking of bouncing back, the cod bite off of Block Island is slowly starting to come back around. The crew of the Black Hawk was out there a couple times from the weekend and this week. They said they didn't quite find the big fish that they had before the storm. As I reported last week, they had a fish to 25 pounds, but they had some solid keepers. One thing interesting they noted, not quite the same numbers of porgies or sea bass on the cod grounds, whether the storm shook them up, the cold change, whatever, they moved deeper. For better or for worse, they did not have quite as many of those species as they did cod. It was primarily cod, which, hey, can't complain there whatsoever. Of course, if you want to head out with the Black Hawk, the Francis Fleet, 7Bs, or anyone else, they're all taking trips by reservation only. So head on over to the fishing reports, the word reports, at thefisherman.com. Find your boat of choice, and you can book your trip in advance. All trips on all the party boats now are by reservation only. And then last up, the January issue of the Fisherman magazine is out this week. Now, it's our annual boat and motor buyer's guide, but we also pack in a whole bunch of great fishing articles as well. Be sure to give it a look, whether in print or online. Right now at thefisherman.com, we got some articles in there, including the official announcement of the entire group of winners in the inaugural Coastal Kayak Clash Fishing Tournament. We got an update on the final tagged striped bass for the 2020 Northeast Striped Bass Tag Study. We got all the details on where Independence made its travels, as well as literally just before I shot this video, some amazing news on the tag itself, so stay tuned. I'm sure going to have updates on that for you next week. You also got to look, sticking with striped bass, a look at where you can target striped bass through the ice this winter. We got some surf fishing articles. We got a little bit of everything. So of course, head on over to thefisherman.com and check that out. Check out all the reports, and of course, that's where you're going to find out all the information if you plan to head out and fish this weekend. So for myself, Toby Lapinski, as well as the entire Fisherman family, I would like to wish everyone happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and I'll see you next week.
Steigercraft boats, built by people who fish our waters. Serious anglers choose Steigercraft for their 40 years of boat building experience right here in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. Visit steigercraft.com for a dealer near you.